So today I'm going to be doing one of TG's IDs really with one of these swapped fights. I'm going to be swapping Jiraiya and Orochimaru. Lately on TG's channel, he's been doing like I went on his channel and did what if Naruto and Sasuke swapped all their fights. He's done some other characters and those videos have been great. Even Seth the Programmer did a video about Naruto and Sasuke swapping fights, and he cited TG, but I'm sure everyone knows about that by now. As for this video, it's going to be, like I said, Jiraiya versus Orochimaru, but the fights are going to be kind of weird with like the conditions, because like we kind of ended up finding that a lot of these Sannin fights have like weird outcomes and weird like handicaps and stuff, so it's not going to be, we're not going to so much talk about like, like a score, but we're going to be talking about who overall did better at the end. But anyway, we can go ahead and start with the first fight, which is going to be Jiraiya versus Itachi in the Akatsuki and Orochimaru's place. It should be no surprise that Itachi should win here, since he was able to beat Orochimaru with just base Sharingan Genjutsu, right? Like, he didn't even have to go deep in his bag. So, and Orochimaru should know that not to look Uchiha in the eyes, which I hope Jiraiya would know as well. So it's kind of hard to make the case that if all the Sannin are on the same tier or relative, like how is Jiraiya going to escape getting put in Genjutsu like immediately? It's generally with Genjutsu, it's more about kind of like a power level type of thing. Like if you're a tier above someone, it's easily put them into a Genjutsu. But anyway, we did say that Jiraiya can probably escape, since Orochimaru somehow did. Like maybe Itachi just let him go for some reason. Don't really know what happened with the outcome of that fight. But not many people know this, but Jiraiya can turn invisible. He has like the transparency jutsu. I think he invented it or whatever. If he starts running and he turns invisible, it's going to be hard for Itachi to catch him, since his only sensory ability is through seeing chakra. But anyway, same outcome there, really. The next fight we're going to be talking about is Jiraiya versus Hiruzen and Konoha Crush, specifically in the barrier. So this is basically just going to be Jiraiya in like that Kazekage position, and they're going to set up that fight in that barrier. So an interesting thing about this is that, as we know, Orochimaru prepared for this very hard by learning how to summon Hashirama and Tobirama. In this case, Jiraiya is going to be feeling the same. Like, this is basically the fight of his life, fighting the supposed god of shinobi. So he's going to prepare by putting Ma and Pa under his Kazekage cloak. I suppose that's kind of headcanon, but the cloak is very, like, I don't think anyone wants to debate me on this, but, like, I think it's very easy to hide two toads under that cloak. What do you think, TJ? You think this is a reach? You think it's a reach?
It's wild. No, keep going.
Yeah, all right. But anyway, it's gonna be easy for Jiraiya to start in Sage mode. The way we look at this fight is basically when Orochimaru decided to fight Hiruzen, he basically had to summon like two Sannin level fighters, because when Hashirama and Tobirama were summoned in part 1, they were more like Sannin level, because they were able to like, keep up with Hiruzen, but Hiruzen was generally outdoing them with like putting explosive tags on them, and he's able to find them in the Genjutsu of darkness and seal them, etc. Whereas when Hiruzen fought Orochimaru lost pretty hard, and he ended up getting under the Reaper Death Cell pretty quick. So that's why we kind of think that these are like two Sannin level fighters fighting Hiruzen at the beginning. In Jiraiya's case, this is bad because he can't just sit back and let these summons do all the work. He's actually going to have to go and fight them. And Hiruzen should be a tier above the Sannin generally, even in his old age. There's a lot of narratives that kind of go along with that. But anyway, really Jiraiya's only chance here, kind of like against Pain, pull out Frog Song. So this is really his only chance, but if Hiruzen rushes in and disrupts this, it could be problematic. Like if he starts targeting Ma and Pa while they're defenseless trying to sing, or like he starts throwing out jutsu, just trying to disrupt it in any way possible, it's problematic. I'm not going to say he can 100% stop it, but I'm not going to say that Jiraiya has the strongest chance of pulling it off, because I really don't think, other than that, I don't think Jiraiya really has anything going for him, considering how well Hiruzen did against Orochimaru in the summons generally. And on top of that, at the beginning of the fight, it's been argued by many that Hiruzen's pretty mentally debuffed, like at the beginning of the fight, like he's having trouble fighting his teachers. At the end, I would say he's charged up. So I guess maybe it evens out. But in general, we feel like Jiraiya doesn't really clear this fight, because we do know 100% Orochimaru walks away the victor of that fight. In this scenario, his only chance is Frog Song, which is pretty risky.
So next up, we have Jiraiya in Orochimaru's position against four-tailed Naruto. Now, this is interesting because Jiraiya low-key kind of already did this in the sense that he fought. He didn't fight, but he was able to suppress like a weaker Naruto that went into the four-tailed state. So you could definitely derive certain elements from that, but. Essentially, don't make me laugh, bro. Essentially, his goal, he's pretty much only goal here is to really just survive against Four Tails Naruto. In the same sense that Orochimaru did. Like Orochimaru just kind of fought him for a prolonged period of time and just retreated after he kind of like figured out that he wasn't able to take Four Tails Naruto down. And what I mean by that is like he really didn't have anything to damage Four-tailed Naruto. His grass longsword was not able to pierce it, or his Kusanagi blade. So it kind of gets into that like same realm for Jiraiya in terms of like discussing if Jiraiya really could like breach this Four-tails Naruto. I don't think so. At least in base, you could probably make a case for Sagemo, although I think that's a little bit more debatable. But there really shouldn't be too much of a reason that the fight can't progress the same way it did, like it did with Orochimaru, especially since Jiraiya should be stronger at this point, as he's easily being compared to Orochimaru, who just isn't restricted or is restricted, doesn't have his jutsu. Jiraiya's gonna have a lot more options in terms of like maneuvering around the battlefield, having summons available to him, throwing out a lot more variety with his jutsu and like slipping around the battlefield. You can even argue like he pulls like Four Tails Naruto into a barrier, similar like he did Pain. He has a whole bunch of jutsus that he can do. It really just kind of comes down to like Jiraiya's own perception and if he feels he can actually like take down Four Tails Naruto. You can even make a case maybe he suppresses him all the same, but there's no reason he shouldn't be able to just leave the battlefield once he decides that it's too much trouble or he's not going to be able to take down Four Tails Naruto. So, he should just be able to pass the scenario the same way that Orochimaru did. Maybe you could argue like Naruto drops like the Four Tails Beast Bomb, but if there's no reason like Jiraiya doesn't have summons of his own to deal with it, or he like goes underground or anything like that with his own Earth style. He can even use the Earth style like Mud Swamp and like starts like having Four Tails Naruto sync with his like amplified bass. So, like Naruto would just go underground completely. Like there's a whole bunch of little things he can do. So he really should pass the scenario all the same.
That brings us into what Orochimaru is going to have to go through, which is Jiraiya's fights. This is starting with Orochimaru and Jiraiya's position against Itachi and Kisame when Itachi and Kisame tried to kidnap Naruto.
So essentially, Orochimaru's goal here is to protect Naruto from Itachi and Kisame, the same as Jiraiya in this situation. He basically has to give Itachi a reason to flee. Now, Itachi's already coming off the back burner at this point, as he already used Tsukiyomi on Sasuke. During this fight, we'll allow that. So he's already not going to be interested in a prolonged bout, similar to like how he was with Kakashi. The minute he used Tsukiyomi, he's like, we got to dip. Orochimaru has a lot of options here to really kind of like make the fight seem like too much trouble for Itachi and Kisame. He could summon the Edo Tensei that he did against Hiruzen, which is going to be extremely detrimental to Itachi and Kisame in the sense that they're not going to want to fight these undead zombies who they have to. Itachi's gonna have no interest on that, even if like he could Totsuka blade them. He's not gonna want to use his MS for a fight that he doesn't really need to have. Orochimaru can also flood the hallway with snakes, making it so that it gives Itachi an excuse to get out the Elite Village, retreat, same thing. Just like Jiraiya sent them to the Toad Stomach. He should be able to protect Naruto, and at his worst, you could just say he summons Edo Tensei, and they'll be able to fight alongside them or run Itachi and Kisame off. So next up, we have Jiraiya versus Tsunade and Orochimaru. This one's interesting because actually we have a twist on this with Jiraiya's going to have the same debuffs that Orochimaru did, basically unable to use his arms and his jutsu, whereas Orochimaru is going to have the roofie that Jiraiya did, or like poison, however you want to word that. Tsunade is going to be the same. And essentially Jiraiya is going to have to take on both of them like Orochimaru did. Now, honestly, like the problem with this fight is that, even if we'll also give him Kabuto, by the way, so he can summon Genbuncha, that's all going to be fine. The problem is, though, is like the way the original fight progressed, Orochimaru, a lot of like his techniques or abilities don't require jutsu in the sense that he can expand his body, like his neck, or he can like regurgitate swords, so he can use swords from his mouth, or he can like make his tongue super long. He basically has like all these different techniques that don't really require jutsu, and he can just kind of like wrap his body and like morph it around. Jiraiya has none of that. Maybe you could argue like he has some he does something with his hair, but he really isn't gonna have as much as Orochimaru does. And the problem is as well is that Orochimaru was kind of fighting a gauntlet in the sense that he was 1v1ing Jiraiya first and then clapped up Jiraiya, and then Tsunade came around and beat him down. He's not going to be able to just tank the same physical blows that Tsunade is. He just doesn't have that level of like regeneration or, you know, any durability feats on that level. So there really isn't there's no reason like he doesn't have the same arsenal as Orochimaru or like the same regen or durability to like clear in the same condition. I would also make the case that I don't think Gamabunta is going to be able to 2v1 Manda and Kitsuyu. That's just me. Manda was like kind of getting teamed up, and like even Tsunade had to come in. So I think if you put Manda on the side of Kitsuyu, like even going off the rock paper scissors logic, Jiraiya's going to be at an even bigger disadvantage. So whether it's from the summonings, his arsenal, or just like him getting beat down, he's gonna perform worse than Orochimaru. So he really shouldn't clear this scenario, or we don't see him clearing it.
And then that leads to our last fight scenario, which is Orochimaru in Jiraiya's position versus Pain in the Rain Village. So basically, Orochimaru is just going to want to go there to extract intel about the leader, and then he's going to have to end up fighting Pain. There's no way, like, when Orochimaru enters, the Rain's going to sense him, and then Pain's going to go confront him. There's no way for Orochimaru really to avoid that. So he's going to be forced to start off by fighting the Animal Summon, and he should do much better than Jiraiya here because he has a sensory type. Not many people know that, but he does have sensory abilities. So it's going to be easy for him to sense, like, the chameleon trying to be invisible. So that's not a viable option for the Animal Summon. In terms of the Dog Summon that, like, constantly splits, Orochimaru can use, like, one of his giant snakes just to wrap around it to just subdue it, or one way or another. Or he can just kind of, like, run away, I suppose. That's kind of how it got dealt with originally. Like, his toe just jumped to the other side of the village, and then the Dog Summon just never reappeared. After that, for some reason, once Pain realizes the Animal Summon's not cutting it here, he's probably going to bring the Human Path and the Asura Path instead of the Preta Path. I don't think he brings in the Preta Path here because I don't think Orochimaru has like a single jutsu that can be absorbed, really. And Pain's going to realize that, and he's going to decide to go with something more offensive in the Asura Path. And at that point, it's going to be hard for Orochimaru because he's going to be dealing with 3 fighters, all with shared vision. He's going to be able to realize they have shared vision probably faster than Jiraiya, though, since Orochimaru is a good bit smarter than Jiraiya. But anyway, in this position, he could decide, like Jiraiya was getting overwhelmed, they decided to drop a smoke bomb and temporarily retreat, kind of talk over some strategy and what's going on here, really. Orochimaru might want to do that. If not, he's still in a pretty good position here against the Asura Path because, like, he's, as we kind of said in some of the earlier fights, he's basically made out of, like, Play-Doh or something. He's impossible to destroy almost, like, physically, unless you really overwhelm him. Like, it wasn't until Fortail Naruto shot a tailed beast bomb at him that he said, okay, this might be bad for me. This might actually kill me. So if Orochimaru is constantly, like, reattaching his limbs and using oral rebirth to regenerate, it's going to be hard for really the Asura Path to make any progress in this fight. Meanwhile, Orochimaru just keeps on gathering intel like he wants to, like he actually came to the Rain Village to do. In terms of how this 1v3 ends up, there's not like any specific scenario we really came up with, like where Jiraiya is able to do something pretty smart, basically puts them in a position where they can't share vision and puts them under Frog Song. In this scenario, considering that Orochimaru is smarter than Jiraiya, maybe he figures out something even better, but that's going to get a little bit more headcanon-y. We still do think that generally, Orochimaru is going to figure out the condition, I should have said this at the beginning, the condition to get out of here is Orochimaru figuring out that Nagato is the real Pain, because once Jiraiya did that, he was like satisfied with the intel. That's when, at the end of the fight, when he had the chance to escape, he was like, I still need to figure out what is the deal with the Pains. I can't leave yet. And after he figures it out, he gets mollywopped. But anyway, in this, not to shade Jiraiya, but in this situation, Orochimaru can probably just kind of stall, and he's going to figure out much earlier, okay, this is probably like one Puppet Master, especially if he defeats the 3 Pains and the 6 Pains comes out. He's going to figure out, okay, there's like a Puppet Master going on here, or they're all like the same person somehow. But anyway, he's going to get enough good intel. The question is, can he escape and get that intel back to the Leaf Village? He can't ride it on a toad and get out of there, or he can't like ride it on a snake because he can't really summon without his arms. This is part two, early part two of Orochimaru, by the way. More than likely, there are ways for him to escape. Like, we've seen him escape numerous fights. Like, in the Sannin showdown, he kind of just poofs while Kabuto slides into the ground. And the Sannin decide not to pursue because they're too tired to. Another situation is Team 7, when they came to his hideout trying to find Sasuke. Kabuto, Sasuke, and Orochimaru just kind of vanish. They like burst into flames and just kind of vanish. We were kind of talking about like what type of jutsu is this? Is this some type of like teleportation jutsu? We're not really sure, but it's like a valid way for him to escape, or at least give him enough of a head start to get out of the rain village and not allow Pain to find him. Like, even Jiraiya had the opportunity to escape because he got into a frog and went into the water. He only ended up coming back up because he wanted more intel. So we kind of feel like if Jiraiya had the chance to escape, Orochimaru is like way more slippier than Jiraiya, and he can probably escape. It's not 100%, but we're still generally siding with Orochimaru escaping with enough intel here.
Yeah, we're also not saying Orochimaru beats Pain.
Yeah,
For
no.
anybody, that's not what this segment's about. It's more so like Michael Myers type scenario. Can I get out with with intel? So which is more of an interesting way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah, but I guess just kind of like I said at the beginning, this is like weird conditions, so we're just gonna kind of talk about how they did overall. So like Jiraiya lost against Itachi just like Orochimaru, so we're not gonna hold that against him. In terms of Jiraiya versus Hiruzen, we have to kind of give him an L there because if he does beat Hiruzen, we think that's a low chance. And because that's a low chance, that's less than Orochimaru 100% beating him. So that's an L for Jiraiya. Jiraiya versus Four-tailed Naruto, I guess that's a neutral since he does just as well as Orochimaru. For Orochimaru protecting against Itachi and Kisame, that's a neutral because he does just as well as Jiraiya. For Orochimaru and Tsunade versus Jiraiya, that's a W for Orochimaru because we said that Jiraiya is not doing nearly as well as Orochimaru. And then for Orochimaru versus Pain, it's kind of like I guess like a small L for Orochimaru because we said he doesn't 100% escape, or he doesn't 100% get that intel back, whereas we know that Jiraiya did. Overall, we feel like Orochimaru does better because he does much better against Hiruzen, and he also does much better in the Sannin showdown if the roles are flipped. Do you agree, TG?
Yeah, I definitely, I definitely agree. I think they're like, I think they're just, it's more so a result of like them being very close. But yeah, I think Orochimaru just has like more of a, I guess I'll say like malleable arsenal. Like his arsenals are like a lot wider, so it's like it benefits him in a lot more situations. I'd say that. So yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I think the thing that really gets him here is that in the Sannin showdown, like if Jiraiya can't use his arms, that's way more limiting than Orochimaru not being able to use his arms, really. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos in the future. Comment something if you have something to say. And thank you all for watching, I guess I'll see y'all next time.